This image has been sitting on my hard drive for a while, not because it's bad, because I shared it recently online and got almost nothing back. I've wondered if that silence was actually an answer. I even created an online fine art listing, priced it, wrote the description, but never pulled the trigger to actually let people know that it was for sale. If you've ever made something, put it out there, met a painful silence, and quietly decided it just wasn't good enough, this video is for you. For years, my real art process has been physical. I print large, I cut the image into parts by hand, I distress the edges with sandpaper, write on them, and sometimes I even add paint or incorporate repurposed materials. Then I glue everything back together in stages and present them in a non-traditional way. It's slow, it's messy, but it's my favorite kind of process. A while back, I started experimenting with building that same look digitally. Layers, textures, words, distress, all in Photoshop instead of with a blade or glue. Partially because it opened up new ways that I might be able to share the work, like prints, stickers, home decor, for someone who isn't necessarily an art collector, but loves something visually cool. For whatever reason, I've never really been interested in mass-producing prints. I've been curious about print on demand since COVID, and I've bought from other creators who are doing that. I just wanted to see what was possible for me. Visually, it did everything exactly the way I wanted it to. It gave me a whole new way to share the work I hadn't thought of before. But something in me still doesn't fully believe it counts as art the same way. In my head, real art is a piece that took hours of cutting and gluing, getting my hands dirty, something one of a kind. And maybe that's true in the world of galleries and limited editions. But not every piece that I make has to live in that world. This piece took hours, just a different medium. A screen instead of a table or an easel. That gap right there, that's mindset number one. And it turns out there are 5 of these mindsets that are hiding underneath most of us, quietly keeping us from sharing the work that we should be putting out into the world. I'm going to walk through all 5 of these today, plus one bonus that I still catch myself going back to. And I'll bet one of these is going to hit you just a little too close to home. The first one is the perfectionism trap. I've never once finished a piece and thought, this is exactly perfect, this is right. Not after 30 years, not with commercial clients who have paid me well and told me that everything looks great. There's always something I'd tweak, change, fix, soften, or redo. For a long time, that feeling kept me from posting or sharing anything at all. If it's not perfect, why would I show it to someone? Why would I share it? Here's what I've had to learn the hard way. Perfect isn't a real place you arrive at. It's a moving target your brain keeps you chasing, so you never have to feel the fear of being seen. Waiting for perfect isn't discipline. It's a really convincing disguise for fear. Here's what I want you to try if you're feeling this way. Share a version of your work, one of your creations that you almost deleted or didn't show someone. Not the safest one, the one with a little grain, a softer edge, a flaw that you can't quite justify. See what happens when you let people discover the trace of your hand instead of the polish. This next one's the deepest cut for me, the Expert Mirage. So let me actually walk you through how it goes. I've spent my whole career being told in one way or another that photography is a lesser art form, that it's fast, that it can be duplicated, that it doesn't take the same kind of time or sacrifice that a painting or sculpture does. And a part of me, the part that's been fighting to be taken seriously as an artist, not just as a photographer for hire, has believed that for a long time. So when I built this piece on wood, cutting it, gluing it, distressing it by hand over hours, that felt like I earned something. That felt like art with a capital A. Then I did the same visual idea in Photoshop. Same eye, same instinct for how the layers should sit against each other. but it took me hours in front of a screen instead of hours at the table with a blade in my hand. And some part of me decided that meant it wasn't real. And it gets even more complicated. Some of what's layered into my pieces of work are iPhone shots, not from my Canon Pro camera. And every tool that I edit with now has AI built right into it somewhere, whether I ask for it or not. So there's this quiet voice asking if it's fast and if it's digital, if the tools are smart, if it's AI, am I still the artist here or am I cheating? Here's what I keep coming back to. The Expert Mirage is the belief that you haven't earned the right to call your work real until it looks a certain way or takes a certain amount of suffering to make. Don't we all feel that as artists? But nobody has the right to give you that permission but you. There's no test, there's no committee. The only person keeping the score is you. The work is still yours. The eye behind it is still yours. The hours in front of the screen still count. So here's something worth sitting with. Write down the requirement that you've quietly set for your own work to count as real. Then ask yourself honestly, who told you that rule? And do you actually believe it? Or did you just inherit it? This one's simple to name and hard to stop doing. You look at someone else's work, someone further along, someone with more followers, someone whose day 1000 you're comparing to your day 1, and you quietly decide that you don't measure up. I do this constantly. I think social media kind of pushes us in that direction. 30 years in, and I still catch myself doing this. The truth is, comparison only tells you one thing, what someone else built. It never tells you what your worth is, because your work isn't trying to be theirs. Here's a small shift that helps sometimes. Find one detail in a piece of your work that only you would have noticed, not the obvious subject, the small thing. The detail is yours. Nobody else's better work has that same exact thing in it. There is a fear that if someone else criticizes the work or just doesn't respond to it, that it's a verdict on you as the person. It isn't. A critique of a photo isn't a critique of your worth. I know that's easier to say and much harder to actually feel in your chest when it's your work on the line. And those two things are not the same, even when it feels like they are. Next time this happens to you, do this. When you get a critical comment or nothing at all, write down what the fear is actually saying about you as a person. Read it back. Usually it falls apart the second it leaves your mouth. This one's called the fear of invisibility, and it's the one that got me with this piece. I didn't get torn apart when I shared it. I didn't get a single harsh word. I got almost nothing. And somehow that felt worse, because at least criticism means that someone looked at it. Silence feels like proof that it didn't even register, that the work and maybe you are invisible. Here's what I've had to remind myself. Silence isn't a verdict. It's not the internet grading your work and handing back a 0. Most of the time, it just means that the piece hasn't found its people yet. Here's what I'd encourage you to do if you're feeling the same way. Share that piece again, somewhere new, with a little more context this time about why it matters to you. Give it a second chance to find the right eyes before you decide that the silence meant something. One more, and I'll be honest, I still catch myself doing this one a lot, the gear excuse. Telling myself that I need a better lens, a better printer, a better setup, kind of like this. I'm still not happy with this setup. Someday I will be. Gear never has been what makes the work good. Hard work does. Learning by doing does. I've been sitting here for 2 days trying to figure out how I wanted to light and set up this shot, and I still struggle with that. Some of the layers in this exact piece came from my iPhone, not my Canon, and the piece still works. The tool was never the thing standing between me and finishing it. Underneath all 5 of these, for me, is one old belief I've been carrying for most all of my career, that photography is somehow less than other art forms because it's fast, because it can be duplicated, because a camera does some of the work a brush or a chisel doesn't. I don't fully believe that anymore, but I've noticed that belief doesn't need my permission to keep running the show in the background. It shows up as procrastination, as second-guessing a piece that I know is good, as deciding that the silence means I was right to doubt myself in the first place. Maybe your version of this isn't about digital versus handmade. Maybe it's a different old voice in your head, a teacher, a parent, an art class years ago. But I'd bet you're carrying one of these too. And I'd bet it's louder than it deserves to be. So here's what I've decided about this piece. The silence doesn't mean I was wrong to make it. It means I haven't found the right audience yet. And that's not the same failure I turned it into in my head. The people who love this kind of work aren't going to be everyone. They might not be your parents. They might not be the friend who's known you the longest that still doesn't quite get what you're doing. That's okay. Your job was never to convince everyone. It's to keep making the work honestly enough that the right people eventually find it. I'm going to put this piece back out there. In fact, I'm building a whole series around it, and the plan is simple, to just put it out. Maybe it won't be a print. Maybe it's on a coffee mug or a mouse pad or a sticker. I don't know. What I do know that even though it may not be considered fine art by some people's standards, it's okay for my standards. Because work that's out there in front of the world beats work that's tucked away in a drawer or sitting in a closet or on a hard drive somewhere. If one of these 5 mindsets hit a little too close to home for you today, that's not a coincidence. That's the one worth working on first. If you found something in this video valuable, share it with me in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.